Tonight, when you get cold, you turn up the heat. When it gets dark, you flip a switch. When you're hungry, you turn on the stove. Now, take all of that away. No switch, no stove, no heat. Just you, a dark forest, a dead fire, and something moving in the trees. That was the worst thing that could happen to your ancestors. Not a predator, not a drought, not an injury. Losing the fire. But to understand why losing it was so catastrophic, you first need to understand what fire actually was. For hundreds of thousands of years, fire was the only thing that kept early humans safe at night. It created a circle of light, roughly 30 feet wide. Inside that circle, safety. Outside it, predators, lions, leopards, hyenas, all of them perfectly designed to hunt in the dark, all of them awake and moving the moment the sun went down. Professor Richard Wrangham of Harvard University, who spent decades studying fire's role in human evolution, argues that fire wasn't just a tool. It was the single most important factor that separated early humans from every other species on Earth. Not language, not tools, fire. So when the fire went out, everything stopped working at once. The moment the flames died, the first problem arrived instantly. Darkness. Not the kind where you can still see shapes. Complete, total darkness. The kind where you hold your hand in front of your face and see absolutely nothing. Without fire, that circle of safety disappeared. They had maybe a few minutes before the predators noticed the light was gone. They needed fire back, fast. But here's the problem nobody talks about. For most of early human history, people didn't know how to make fire. They could only use it. The earliest fires came from nature. Embers collected from wildfires caused by lightning, carried carefully back to camp and kept alive. Which meant if your fire went out, you waited for the next lightning strike. You could be waiting weeks, months. So the group did the only thing they could. They huddled together in the dark, pressed against each other, stayed completely still, made no noise, hoped the predators didn't notice them. Some groups didn't make it through the night. But darkness wasn't the only problem. And the second one was already arriving. Cold. Fire allowed early humans to survive temperatures that would otherwise be fatal. Cold nights, harsh winters, temperatures that dropped to dangerous levels within hours after sunset. Without it, the group's body heat started draining away. In a cold climate, hypothermia can set in within a few hours. Children and the elderly, even faster. So while everyone pressed together, sharing whatever warmth they had left, one person worked on something else. And this is where it gets extraordinary. Two rocks struck together at the right angle. Flint struck against iron pyrite, a common mineral that looks like gold, produces a shower of hot sparks. Those sparks landed on dry grass or powdered wood could become an ember. And an ember, carefully blown, becomes a flame. But even knowing this, it wasn't easy. It required the right rocks, dry material to catch the spark, hands steady enough to work fast in total darkness while something moved in the trees outside. The British Museum describes firekeeping as a 3-stage process that took hundreds of thousands of years to develop. First, scavenging embers after wildfires. Then, carrying and maintaining those embers across distances. Finally, learning to create fire intentionally, from nothing. For most of human prehistory, groups were still stuck in stage 2, which meant one rule above everything else: never let the fire die. Someone was always responsible, adding wood through the night, protecting the embers from wind and rain. And when the group moved, carrying live embers with them, wrapped in leaves, packed in clay, kept alive like something precious. Because it was precious. It was the most valuable thing they owned. But then, something changed everything. A curved stick with a cord attached, a wooden spindle pressed against a flat board. Move the bow back and forth. The spindle spins, friction builds, heat rises. In under a minute, a skilled person could produce an ember from nothing. The bow drill. Think about what that meant. For the first time in human history, fire wasn't something that could be permanently lost. It could always be rebuilt. No more waiting for lightning, no more huddling in the dark praying the predators didn't come. For the first time, a human being held in their hands the ability to create light and warmth from scratch. Professor Wrangham calls this moment the second birth of the human species. Not when we evolved, not when we learned to speak, when we learned to make fire ourselves. But that invention didn't come for thousands of years. For most of human prehistory, the answer was simpler and harder at the same time. Don't let it go out. Watch it, guard it, protect it from the rain. Add wood before you sleep. Wake up in the middle of the night to check on it. Carry it with you when you move. Treat it like a member of the group. Because in every way that mattered, it was. So what happened when ancient humans lost their fire? They panicked. They huddled. They worked in the dark with cold hands and shaking fingers, pressing rocks together and praying for a spark. And then they solved it. Not just once. Over and over. Each time learning something new. Each time getting better at keeping it alive and better at bringing it back when it died. Every time you light a candle. Every time you turn on a stove. Every time you sit around a campfire and feel that strange sense of calm you can't quite explain. You're using something your ancestors fought to keep alive for 1,000,000 years. Don't let it go out.